You are watching the Pittsburgh Penguin Fan Show on Fan Media Network. I'm Joe Bartnick, your host, a Pittsburgh Penguin fan. Joining me now, Pittsburgh Penguin fan, my great friend, puck-off co-host, the one and only Andy Piccaro. Everybody, hey, Andy, what's going on?
Summer
Joe? Programming at its fullest right here. Big news, though, this week. Sad news. And some potentially very interesting good news. The potentially interesting good news, which we'll get to right now, is that the Penguins fired their goalie coach, Mike Buckley. Never like to see someone lose their job, but to say he didn't do a good job is an understatement. Former goalie coach Mike Bales revived Fleury's career, got Matt Murray to win 2 Stanley Cups. And then they got rid of him for Murray's buddy, and all Murray did was lose his confidence and play terrible. And then Jari is awful. If anything, just Andy Chiodo, I guess, is the new goalie coach, and he was a former Penguin. I think he played about 5 games. As long as they can teach the guys not to do that, hey, when they're wrapping a puck around the net, do this stupid formation. How about hug the post? That was good for 100 years. Hugging the post never let anybody down. But your thoughts on the goalie coaching change?
You know, I do think that it's important. And I also think that I have to know my limitations as a fan. For me, the only read I can have off of it isn't how, stylistically the goalies will play or how Jari will now look at the games. Cheeto's a guy who, you want a career AHLer, a guy that's been around the greats, was able to watch a lot, to be in there. So I like hires like that. I like guys like that. And I just think it shows a culture of change is happening in goaltending in Pittsburgh right now. Like, they're going to try and figure it out. This is the first motion of we're going to try and figure it out. And then Hextall said he's going to back Jari, which is the responsible thing to do when he's your goalie. You can't say, hey, he stinks and we still have his contract. So I think that it's good. It's a little tiny move, and we really don't hiring a goaltending coach is like finding out if an offensive lineman is good. We'll know in like 3 years. We'll see what happens as it pans out,
Yeah, I mean, it can't hurt. I mean, let's face it. Murray went from being really good to not so good, and Jari went from being an all-star to terrible. So something had to change. We're stuck with Jari, and if anything, just a different voice in the room. You never know what Chiodo can see. He actually played professional hockey. He was in the NHL. You never know what he can see. But I do agree with the thing of, the hitting coach is always great when the guys are hitting, and he's fired when they stink. So,
exactly.
I don't know. But as far as at least as much as we wanted the goalies to change, at least they changed the coach. I mean, that's about the least of what we can hope for. The other big news, sadness. It's hard to explain. It's the end of an era. It's the end of many eras. It's the end of every era, basically. The voice of the Penguins, one of the iconic voices of hockey, Mike Lange, called it quits after 50 years of broadcasting hockey, 46 with the Penguins. He's the only announcer I've ever known, and you as well. And I can say this, I predate Mario. Mr. Lange predates Mario. He was the only thing good about the team before Mario. People love the announcer. People are like, I don't really stand hockey, but that announcer is great. And he became a part of Pittsburgh, and he became world famous. Dan Patrick, Oberman, they had the Mike Lange call of the night. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. And it really does seem now, it really seems the golden era, the golden age of Sid and Gino, and it really seems like things are coming to a close.
I thought he might have been gone after 2009. And I'll say this real quick. In 2011, I was opening for Otto and George, the great Otto and George, in New Haven, Connecticut for Game 4 of the Penguins versus the Lightning. And James Neal scored in overtime. I was listening to the call in the New Haven, in the parking lot of Joker's Wild, listening to the call as Otto and George are arguing on stage with each other, And so I'm outside, and I remember them winning that game and thinking, I need to listen to as many Mike Lange calls as I can, because who knows when he's going to hang them up and just go, hey, I've called a lot of great things. It's time for a beach. You know what I mean? And I've always been rooting for Mike. He's from California. Hopefully he's going to come out here and have a great retirement. And one thing I wanted to say was this hat was the first autograph I got from any non-Disney character. And it says, probably can't see it, but Andrew, Michael Motorcycle, Mike Lange. I saw him at my first ever Penguins game in Richfield Coliseum. He was smoking a cigarette outside the press box. My dad walked up. He said, "You know who this is?" And I said, "No, of course I didn't." And he tousled my hair and he signed this hat, which was,
that.
I guess this would have been 94 or 93. And it was in the Richfield Coliseum in Cleveland. I'll never forget it. So Mike Lange, one of my first memories of being a Penguins fan. And I think everybody feels that way.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember my grandfather listening on a transistor radio, and his voice cut through everything, and you heard the old ones, Look Out Loretta and Michael Motorcycle and Great Balls of Fire and Buy Sam a Drink and Get His Dog 1-2. I mean, and there weren't too many goals to celebrate in those days. And then, of course, vintage Mike was vintage Lemieux, and it all came together, and the Elvis had left the building. And I mean, he's why I do the morning skate every day. I was at DVE, and he's like, I heard Puckoff's really good. You guys are great. He goes, how many days a week you do it? And I said, oh, one day. He goes, what do you do the other days? That's why I do the morning. He's the Hall of Famer, and I met him at the Decade a couple of times because he loved the blues, and he's just a gentleman. And I'll always get choked up when I think about Game 6 when we beat Detroit in Game 6 to go play Game 7 in 2009, and he says, I'll meet you in Detroit for all the marbles. That's my favorite Mike Lange call. What was your favorite Mike Lange call?
My favorite Mike Lange call, I don't think I can say one call, one moment, but my favorite Mike Lange call was always, he doesn't know whether to cry or wind his watch. I don't care when that call happened. That was my favorite call. And for me, it was not necessarily how big his calls were in the moment, because they were great. It was how, just out of this world they were. I mean, we, as comics, we always appreciate people like Tracy Morgan, right? We appreciate people who can just say anything and make it amazing, Yeah. And that was Mike Lange. Mike Lange could just find a sentence that anyone else says that sentence, and that sentence stinks. It's not original. Mike Lange says it with the way Mike Lange is able to do it, and it becomes something you write on posters for the next 60 years. I mean, he had an ability no one else had.
Yeah, I think my favorite call as well was in game moment, I guess. Well, was when we beat the Rangers and Captain Ron had the hat trick to dispel Messier and Graves in '92, and he said Elvis and the New York Rangers have just left the building. That was something else. It's hard to put into. It's really hard. I mean, I can't. You knew the day would come. I don't know. It's incredibly tough. I mean, he's Mike freaking Lange. Not to be disrespectful. I mean, I've said for years. I've said for years he's almost Mount Rushmore Penguin if you include everybody. He's really after Sid and Gina. I mean, he's really after Sid and Mario. And no offense to Jaromir Jagr, who's on my Christmas tree, and Gino, who I wear to the games. I mean, that's how important Mike Lange is to the Penguins, and he'll just be missed. But I will say this, Josh Getzoff, we've even had some messages exchanged. Josh Getzoff's a hell of a. We are in good hands. At least the next guy doesn't stink.
No, 100%, and I honestly think that. You got to be nothing but happy for the guy. He's leaving on his terms. He wanted to call another cup. He got to call 3 more after that famous interview. If I just want to call 1 more in 2007, he got to call 3 more. And, like you said, there's nobody more Pittsburgh Penguin that wasn't a player. It's him and Eddie Johnson are the knights of the round table of the Pittsburgh Penguin hierarchy. They are the first men of the outside of Mount Rushmore, that guard it.
Yep. I mean, there's nothing more you can say. It's tough. It's just tough when you think all the goals that he's not going to call anymore, like all the great ones that you want to hear. But I really do like the way Josh calls the game, and it's just going to be tough. It was a sad morning when I woke up. Like, oh man, how can the summer of discontent get any worse? But they'll be playing in 59 days. And it'll all be fun. That's our show. That's Andy Picaro. Check him out. He'll be on the East Coast at the end of August. I'm Joe Bartnick. I'm a lot of places. And that's our show.
To host a fan show or appear as a fan on a fan show, simply create a profile on Fan Media's iOS app or website. Select your teams and make a short intro video on your phone. Show hosts, reporters, former players, and superfans can use our Get Verified feature and make an intro video as well, and our mobile newsroom staff will reach out.